Hi Rockers, Joe here. Today I am going to be making spaghetti and red sauce. It's a really classic recipe, actually pretty simple. I'll be using flour and eggs to make my pasta. I have a pasta machine here. I've done this once before with ravioli for the videos, but hopefully this will reiterate and show you how easy it is. For the red sauce, I'll use whole tomatoes, Italian spices, and garlic and onions and things like that. It's a really, in my opinion, robust flavors. You can add meat to this if you like. I'm gonna keep mine vegetarian for today. I'll also do a caprese salad on the side with some basil, fresh mozzarella, and tomatoes. I hope you enjoy following along and watching. Give me feedback, show me your spaghetti, or tell me how you make your sauce. I'm interested. Thanks for watching, Rockers.
This recipe will serve 3 to 4 people. I'll be using olive oil, fresh mozzarella, Parmesan cheese, half an onion, basil leaves, garlic, sugar, parsley, oregano, basil, thyme, salt, and of course tomatoes. Of course, for the pasta I'll be using flour and eggs. So I'm starting here by chopping and dicing a half of an onion. Now I'm using 5 cloves of garlic. I think I called for 4 cloves, but I had some small garlic, so I just added a clove. I'm gonna chop it. Doesn't have to be chopped finely. And then we'll set this aside for a bit. I'm going to prepare my caprese salad at this point. There goes my chopped sliced tomatoes. This is the fresh mozzarella. I'm going to just cut it in slices and then cut it in half. I'll add it to the tomatoes. I used about 1.5 of these mozzarella balls. And then I was running low on basil. I chopped the basil that I did have, and then I grabbed some mint from my mint plant and chopped that. So I just incorporated some mint instead, since I didn't have enough basil. There goes oregano on top, some dried basil, salt, little pepper, and then some really nice olive oil. I'll add balsamic as well. We'll set this aside. I put it in the refrigerator until the rest of the food's done. That's a bowl of cold water there with a little ice in it. This is boiling water. I'm adding my 8 tomatoes to this. I'll leave them in the water for about 1 to 2 minutes or so. When I see the first tomato start to crack, I start to remove them. Once we remove these, we'll just add them back to the bucket of cold water. The cold water will cool them, and then what we'll do is we'll peel them. The skin will just peel right off. The flash boil just allows them to peel really easy. At this point, we'll add to our big pot some high heat, the tomatoes, our garlic and onions. Stir this around, and we'll let these onions cook and the tomatoes cook and mix in. And then this is my spice mix. So these are all the spices mixed together: sugar, salt, oregano, thyme, basil, parsley. Just let that mix in. I let these cook for about 3 or 4 minutes or so. At this point, I'm grabbing my blender and I'm adding these tomatoes and the onions and the garlic and all the spices to the blender. Then I added about 1 cup of water to this and blended. A little less than 1 cup, about 3/4 of a cup of water. That's about 180 milliliters. Then I added it back to the hot skillet, some Parmesan cheese, and then stirred this. We're gonna let this cook for a long time. I'm gonna make the pasta, and this is just gonna be simmering for quite some time. You can let it simmer as long as you want. So for the pasta, 2 cups of flour, just regular white flour. We're gonna create a hole in the middle of the flour and then crack 3 eggs. I've also added salt to this flour as well. There goes the salt. We'll mix the eggs together and then slowly incorporate the rest of the flour into the egg mixture. When everything's mixed up, we'll move to our hands. At this point, I'm going to move to my hands and form a ball. We really want to work this together. If it's too moist, add a little flour. If it's too dry, we'll add just a tiny bit of olive oil. We're just gonna keep mixing this until it's nice and smooth. If your hands get tired, grab a friend and they can help. Or take a break and then you can come back to it. Nice and smooth, as you can see. I'm going to cover it with a little bit of plastic wrap and just set it aside. Now that it's been sitting for about 10 minutes, I'm just going to start making my pasta. I have a pasta maker. If you don't have a pasta maker, you can still do this with a rolling pin and a table. You'll just roll the pasta really thin and cut. I typically, before I had a pasta maker, I would cut it into Alfredo strips because spaghetti would be really hard to use just using a knife. So I've rolled out my first pasta. This pasta recipe is a little bit much, so I'm just feeding 2 people. So I made this pasta. This is the pasta that I will save for later. The pasta that I'm using today, I'll hang on my pasta hanger. This pasta maker I'm using, I bought at El Corte Inglés for I believe about 40 euros. So if you love pasta like I do and you want to make lasagna and ravioli, I would recommend investing in one. There goes the pasta. As you can see, it's hanging there. It dries pretty quick. It doesn't need to be fully dry or anything. It just needs to get be left out for a few minutes or so. So I have boiling water here, and I'm going to start adding my pasta to that water. This isn't like traditional dried pasta that you buy at the store. This is going to cook in about 2 to 3 minutes. You want to taste this and make sure it's done, and then make sure it's not overcooked as well. So you got to really watch it the whole time. I typically don't leave the room. So I'm going to add my pasta to the plate. My sauce has been cooking for about an hour and a half at this point. I grate some cheese over the sauce and the pasta. Here goes my caprese salad. I'm going to add that to my plate. I've also bought some fresh bread, and that's it. Spaghetti. Thanks for watching.